Florence is in the heart of Tuscany, northwest Italy, but our flight is to Pisa, about an hour away. The cradle of the Renaissance, Florence is home to some of the most famous buildings in Europe. The Duomo, Florence's cathedral, stands out, and our hotel, also called the Duomo, is right next to it. The hotel is on the 4th floor, reached by this old-fashioned lift. The main communal room of the hotel serves as breakfast room, bar and lounge. The view from our balcony is spectacular. The view never goes away. The cathedral is floodlit throughout the night. The bell tower, or campanile, designed by Giotto, was completed in 1359 and rises to 85 metres. The octagonal baptistry was started in 1059 and completed in 1128. The cathedral itself was completed in 1436. Although the facade we can see now was only put on in the late 19th century. The last part of the building to be completed was the Great Dome, designed by Brunelleschi. Inside, the church seems rather plain, particularly compared with other churches in Florence. The painting of the Last Judgment inside the dome is by Giorgio Vasari. Just a few minutes' walk from the cathedral is San Lorenzo, basically the private church of the Medici family, and it's very close to the Medici Palazzo. And there's Cosimo de' Medici keeping an eye on things. San Lorenzo Church was begun in 1419, but wasn't finished until the 1490s. The church has a large cloister. The church was designed by Filippo Brunelleschi, but at the time of his death very little had been built. Originally, 8 wealthy Florentine families agreed to build the church, and each would have its own chapel. 7 of the families ran out of money, so the Medici ended up paying for the lot. The old sacristy is the first part of the church to have been completed and contains, among others, the tomb of Giovanni de' Medici, who founded the family's banking empire. The Chapel of the Princes was added behind the apse of San Lorenzo in the 17th century. It contains funerary monuments to members of the Medici family. There are some very valuable religious artifacts relating to the Medici family, which contained 2 popes. Next door is the new sacristy designed by Michelangelo in the 1520s. The original intention was for it to be the mausoleum for the Medici family. In the event, only two relatively minor members of the family were buried here, plus Lorenzo the Magnificent and his brother, who are in the plain tomb underneath the statue of the Madonna and Child by Michelangelo himself. These more elaborate tombs for the minor members of the family were not completely finished when Michelangelo finally left Florence. Michelangelo's original crown for the dome of the new sacristy. The Dominican convent church of Santa Maria Novella is the oldest large basilica in Florence, being built between the late 13th and early 14th century. It was, though, subsequently remodelled somewhat by Vasari. The large painted crucifix in the nave is by Giotto and dates from 1289. The stained glass and frescoes in the main chapel behind the altar were designed by Domenico Ghirlandaio, and he was probably assisted in their execution by his young apprentice Michelangelo Buonarroti. Recent restoration work has uncovered some early frescoes hidden behind later Renaissance paintings, and they're put on show once a month. In the smaller of the two cloisters, the former chapter house is now the Spanish chapel, which was decorated by Andrea de Bonaiuto. It shows Florence Cathedral as he imagined it would look when it was finished. Around the corner is the Farmacia of Santa Maria Novella, the modern-day descendant of the convent herbalist, where you can buy expensive modern perfumes. Florence was briefly the capital of Italy in the late 19th century, and it was at this time that what is now the Piazza della Repubblica was carved out from what had been the ancient marketplace. Supporters of the redevelopment said that only slums and squalor were destroyed, but in fact a large number of important historical buildings were lost as well. Not far away is the New Market, which is actually nearly 500 years old. These days it largely sells leather goods for tourists. Nearby is the Church of All San Michele. This three-storey building was originally a grain market. It became the chapel of the guilds of Florence, and the statues in niches round the outside are the patron saints of the various guilds. These statues are now copies, the originals are in museums. The building dates from the early 1300s, and it was converted to a church in 1404. Inside the column is a grain chute, reminding us of the original purpose of the building. Walking through the medieval city centre, we still find the remains of some tower houses. These kinds of buildings once dominated the city, but there are now few of them left. One tower house which has survived is the one in which the poet Dante was born, around 1265. The Bargello was originally the seat of government of the city of Florence. Dating from 1255, it's the oldest public building in Florence. It's now a museum. It contains sculptures by some of the city's most famous artists. This Bacchus is by Michelangelo. St. George by Donatello used to be in a niche on the facade of Orsan Micheli Church. Donatello's bronze statue of David, dating from the 1440s. And this is Donatello's first David in marble, dating from 1408. The museum includes other collections, and the chapel has frescoes by Giotto. Moving towards the river, the Palazzo Vecchio on the Piazza della Signoria was the political heart of medieval Florence. The Fountain of Neptune is under restoration. The arch is a replica of the Roman arch from Palmyra, which was destroyed by ISIS. The Palazzo Vecchio was built in 1299 and took over as the seat of city government from the Bargello. The statue of David at the entrance is a copy put here in 1873, but Michelangelo's original stood there for nearly 400 years. The entrance leads through to this splendidly decorated courtyard. Between the Palazzo Vecchio and the river is the Uffizi, originally the administration offices, now one of the world's leading art galleries. And so to the River Arno and the Ponte Vecchio, the oldest bridge in Florence, dating from 1345. The shops on the bridge are now mainly jewellery shops catering to the tourist trade. The statue is Benvenuto Cellini, sculptor and goldsmith, and he seems to have attracted this modern tradition of attaching padlocks. The Franciscan Church of Santa Croce was begun in 1294 and consecrated in 1442. The church contains many works of art by great Renaissance artists, and also many tombs and funeral monuments to the great and the good of Italy. Many of the frescoes and other works of art were severely damaged by the flooding in 1966. The nave of the church has many funeral monuments and tombs. The tomb of the composer Rossini. The tomb of Machiavelli. The monument to Dante, but he's actually buried in Ravenna. The tomb of Michelangelo, designed by Giorgio Vasari with contributions by other major Renaissance artists. The tomb of Galileo. In the old refectory, Vasari's Last Supper was finally restored 50 years after the flood that nearly destroyed it. The busy square outside Santa Croce Church is largely surrounded by cafes and leather goods shops. The fountain at the far end has just been revealed today after restoration. A highlight of our visit to Florence is to see Michelangelo's statue of David in the Accademia Gallery. There are always long queues of people waiting to get in to see David. We had reserved a time slot early in the morning. The statue is 17 feet high and was carved between 1501 and 1504. It was originally intended to be placed on the roof of the cathedral, but was never put there. Instead, it was placed at the entrance to the Palazzo Vecchio, where it remained until 1873. There are other works in the gallery, including these unfinished sculptures by Michelangelo. Across the River Arno and uphill is the Piazzale Michelangelo, with its copy of the statue of David. Tours to Florence usually call in here for the view, the church of San Miniato al Monte, and a little downhill this intriguing view of the Palazzo Vecchio. But the main event is this amazing panorama of the city of Florence.